Torpedo bats, injuries, Aaron Judge on pace for another historic year, an MVP award. The Yankees are 92 games into the season. They currently sit at 51-41, and they're 2.5 games behind the Blue Jays for first place in the division. So, Greg, Joyce, how would you grade the Yankee season so far, and why?
Yeah, I'd probably give it around a B, B plus, somewhere in that range. I think if, coming out of spring training, if you told, the Yankees that they'd be, 10 games over 500 in July without, getting a single inning from Garrett Cole or Luis Seal, and they'd have Clark Schmidt headed for Tommy John surgery too mid-year. Um, I think generally you'd take that. Obviously, when you see it play out, it looks a little bit different. The first 2 months of the season, it looked real sharp for the most part. We saw a lineup that was deeper than last year. A lot of guys were kind of playing beyond what they were expected to. Obviously, Aaron Judge was flirting with 400, putting together a pretty dominant first 2 months. And the pitching staff was, for the most part, kind of holding it together. They had some key contributors like Ryan Yarbrough was pitching well. Will Warren had shown a lot of growth. Clark Schmidt had started to pitch deeper into games, was kind of taking that next step. But obviously, then the past month, 6 weeks, it's kind of a different story. The offense is largely gone cold together, struggled with runners in scoring position. Some of their defensive miscues and mental errors that plagued them last season in October have kind of been popping up a little bit too often over the last few weeks, as they hit that kind of summer swoon, that June swoon that they had each of the last 3 years. So it's kind of been, kind of a tale of two seasons so far. If you kind of break it up, the first 2 months versus the last month and a half. But they've kind of, with all the injuries that they've had, they've kind of, when you look at it, zoom out and look at it in the whole, they're in a decent spot right now. A couple games out of first place behind the Blue Jays, even though they lost that first place last week when they got swept by the Blue Jays. But they haven't totally damaged anything yet in terms of where they stand in the standings. I think the trade deadline will be key coming up here to see how they can kind of fortify the roster. Obviously, the shopping list is a lengthy one at this point. With Brian Cashman saying yesterday they need a starter, some bullpen help and an infielder. So it's a lot of pieces to acquire in one deadline that may not be overflowing with options. But I think by and large, when I think the last couple of weeks it has often seemed for the fan base like the sky is falling. But it seemed like that last year too around this time, and they were able to kind of right the ship later in the summer and kind of obviously reach the World Series. We'll see if they can do that this year, but they've kind of withstood some of the challenges so far, and if they're able to snap out of this before long, they could be headed on the right track.
Still a lot of baseball left. Greg, Joyce, thanks, man.